Black caucus members have been leading the effort in this whole deal. They've been battling not just on voter suppression, but also on Republicans who want to use the power in the state legislature to tell local governments how they must do their jobs. One of those areas, defund the police. State Representative Renitta Shannon spoke on the floor of the Georgia House. Wait till I see this video, where she lays out, okay, and just blisters Republicans for their nonsense. And I thought they were all about local control. Watch this.
In committee, it was said that this bill was to defeat calls to defund the police, which is really just black and brown communities saying that over-policing leads to more police killings and police brutality in our communities. And there are better ways for the money to be spent, and let us figure that out in our communities. Republicans know that these issues are connected, and that's the reason why you didn't want to talk about this bill yesterday, because it was the one-year anniversary of Ahmaud Arbery being killed. So you know that this stuff is connected. But let's talk about the real animus for these bills, because Georgia's not the only state that's seeing one of these bills. These bills are being filed across the country by Republicans. And I think that this is a weird PR campaign by Republicans to absolve themselves of the fact that domestic terrorists from their party went up to the Capitol on January 6th and killed and maimed police officers. Defund the police has never killed any police officers. Defund the police has never maimed any police officers. So Republicans, you can continue to run these weird PR campaigns if you want to. Democrats will continue to press for justice and to make sure that we don't see any more of the following: Eric Gardner's, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald, Tamir Rice, Walter Scott, Samuel DuBose, Freddie Gray, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Rashard Brooks, Jamarian Robinson, Shali Tilson, Tanisha Anderson, Alexia Christian, Maya Hall, Nick Thomas, and many more. I'll yield the next.
Now, folks, that's one issue we have to talk about. We're going to speak to Representative Shannon in just a moment. Also today, you had protesters in the state capitol protesting Senate Bill 531, dealing with, again, all of these voter suppression bills. Representative Park Cannon is standing with those protesters. State trooper speaking through a bullhorn. She decides to stand in front of the bullhorn. Why is this state trooper physically touching her for no reason whatsoever? Watch this.
Attention. I am Sergeant Walker with the Georgia State Patrol. You are in violation of 1611 34.1.
Go. Step aside, ma'am. Step aside. Now.
Disperse immediately or you will be arrested.
Representative Cannon steps in front of the bullhorn. State trooper moves her out of the way. For what reason? All the other trooper had to do was simply raise his bullhorn. She wants to blow her ears out. That's on her. She's demanding an apology from that state trooper. He's saying, I'm not going to apologize. Joining us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered is Georgia State Representative Park Cannon, as well as Georgia State Representative Renitta Shannon. Glad to have both of you here. Let's deal with this, because all these things are tied together. And Representative Cannon, I'm watching the video. I don't understand the deal. You stand in front of the bullhorn. All he had to do was raise the bullhorn, go to the left or to the right. Why did that trooper think that he had the power to touch you, to physically move you out of the way? And I saw you talking to him. What was that exchange about?
They feel like they have the power because earlier today they were doing that to unarmed other people in the state capitol, specifically a Black man who was speaking up about the need to stop House Bill 531. They do it because this is what they do.
And but okay, where I come from, I'm just trying to understand where a cop has the right to touch someone to move them out of the way. Now, if you are arresting someone, if you are ordering them to move and they refuse to do so, but to physically move you out of the way, under what right do they have to do that?
They have no right. These are the microaggressions in policing that we speak fervently against, just like on the House floor yesterday against the House bill, making it clear that they are standing in between a conversation on increasing transparency in policing and limiting transparency in policing.
What people, look, I've always warned our folks, constantly, I've warned them that when there is Black success, it's always followed by white backlash. I warned folks in Florida after Amendment 4 was passed, don't think for a second Republicans are going to accept this. And what if they do? Change the law, made it difficult, saying, oh, you got to pay all your fines and fees to get your right to vote back. After November, Biden-Harris wins, then Warnock and Ossoff win. I said, y'all, it's coming. These folks are going to come after Black people in a fierce way because they cannot stand losing. And that's exactly what you're seeing. Representative Shannon, when you were on the floor talking about defund the police, and I keep saying this, Republicans love talking about local control, big government, get government out of our lives. Don't tell us what to do. Now in the Georgia legislature, they want to do the exact same thing Alabama did, Mississippi did, Texas did, Missouri did. They want to be able to say, no, we're going to tell you in your cities how you should do your job, as opposed to the local leaders that voters voted. They really are saying to all those cities in Georgia with Black leadership, we're going to tell y'all what the hell to do.
Absolutely. And they've had a long history of doing this. This is not the first time. I like to talk about how much nice white racism happens at the Capitol. These people want to silence Black people through the legislation that they pass, and then they want to have you in the anteroom. And it's not going to work. Right after Brian Kemp was, after the election from Stacey Abrams, I led a legislator boycott to say, basically, you're not going to run these racist, homophobic, sexist campaigns and then just act like it didn't happen and you want everybody to attend your speeches. It's not going to happen. You have to call these people out because they really want to avoid full accountability for the types of legislation that they pass. And so, to your point, these defund the police bills, the governor comes down and shouts, well, in Georgia, we back the blue. That's not what happened on January 6th. And I let them know.
And on that particular point right there, which is a critical one, that all these Republicans, a cop was killed on January 6th. One had an eye gouged out. One lost 3 fingers. Several committed suicide. But you know what? They're patriots. Those were patriots. And we still stand by Donald Trump. I have been saying white fear, the changing of the demographic of this country, the changing of the look of this country is causing these white folks to say, no, we are going to try to guarantee that we are in control and holding power for as long as we can. So if they're able to gerrymander districts, voter suppression, if they're able to sit here and the crap that's happening, and why these idiot Democrats don't want to get rid of the filibuster, the Republicans, their deal is, we might be in the minority, but we want to be able to control policy in this country. And if we control the courts, anything y'all pass, we can overrule as well. So people better buckle up to understand what's really happening here. And Georgia is a ground zero for what we're talking about.
And I think the main thing that they are resisting is that, for so long, our government, and it still looks this way today, but for so long, our government has mostly been made up of the people who have been able to vote the longest, and that is white men. And so they are resisting the fact that now you have voices like myself and Representative Cannon coming in saying, hey, this stuff, it's not that this stuff is divisive. It's not that, you're upset that you're hearing new voices that were previously suppressed. We're happy to be those voices. We know what happens in our communities, and that's why I read them the names of just a few Black people who have been killed by police. We know what's happening in our communities. We know what we need, and you're not going to tell us that we don't know what's happening in our communities.
Representative Cannon, we spent about 5 weeks in Georgia. We were on the ground, going all around the state, live streaming, covering these rallies, because I told our viewers, we got to be there. It's important that we can't ignore what's happening there. Then I said, we got to continue. We got to be in these places. And so what is the pushback like? Republicans control both chambers. They control the governor's mansion. But what's the plan to fight this, to battle this? Because for them, they're just going to run roughshod and just pass these things left and right.
It's the fiscal impact. House Bill 531 will cost the state of Georgia $32 million to implement. That's not even including any of the lawsuits that will follow very soon after the governor, if he does, signs it. The rest of the voter suppression bills, there's up to 78 today, many of them 30 pages long. That newest one, all of those together, would cost our state $57 million, still minus lawsuits. So what we really are hitting home at is our state cannot afford to not invest in labor payments right now, healthcare right now for people. Real life people are going through, and we're standing in the gap. So today, yesterday, we were standing in the gap for our constituents. We'll go back on Monday and we'll go towards crossover day, which is only 2 legislative days away. And you just have to get the bills from the House to the Senate or vice versa by March 8th.
And the other thing that you should know is it's not just this year, the result of the November election. They have been passing voter suppression bills for as long as I've been elected. I served on the Governmental Affairs Committee, which deals with election law. And my first year was 2017. Serving on that committee, there was not a year that I did not see bills come through that were meant to target Black and brown voters to make sure that voices get silenced. So they've been at this for a long time. And people like Brad Raffensperger, Gabriel Sterling, they are no heroes. These are the same people who would say that Trump is telling a big lie about fraud in the election. Yes, he is. But also, before they were. Gabriel Sterling and Brad Raffensperger, they've all been a part of it, telling the lie about voter fraud. And it's all just been an attempt to suppress Black and brown voters who they knew were eventually going to show up in elections in a big way.
What are y'all calling on citizens of Georgia to do? And what do you want folks around the country to also be doing?
We are calling on we're calling on folks in Georgia to let the governor know that we don't want these bills. Let the Speaker of the House know that we don't want these bills. But more importantly, and to your earlier point, the segment that you were talking about before with removing the filibuster, we need the Biden administration to make good on the promise that they will pass some federal bill that will ensure that we can have free and fair elections across the country. We need that because you see in states like Georgia, these people are determined to make sure that Black and brown voices cannot be heard through free and fair elections. So we're asking people to reach out to their federal the people who represent them at the federal level to say this needs to be a priority. Yes, I understand you're doing COVID. And after you do COVID relief, the very next thing that has to happen is you have to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You have to pass SR1. We need some type of protection.
It's all connected. We want people to share their stories. If you voted absentee, if you voted by mail, if you voted in person, if you voted early, we need your legislator to know your stories so that they can directly address and say, you cannot attack Sunday voting. We can anecdotally say that will attack those to the polls. But what we can really also say is I have heard from 36 constituents in the past hour who said that they favored that style of voting. And in this moment, when we're still in a pandemic, we're begging people to wash their hands and to just take care and precaution, but still access their right to vote. We must meet them with the resources necessary for them to do that. So stay close to your legislator. There are 3 legislative days left for this one big bill, House Bill 531, to move from the House to the Senate. And even if that bill does not move, there are bills already moving back to the House from the Senate that have been passed, just like repealing automatic voter registration at the DMV, where we go to get our licenses renewed.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know that this stuff is so racist, what they're doing, because many of the things that they are now legislating against are proposals that Republicans actually pushed. So now they are trying to say you need an excuse to vote absentee. Well, Republicans are the ones who took away having to have an excuse to vote absentee in 2005. So they were comfortable with really expanding the franchise to make sure that more people could participate in voting when it was mostly their voters, when it was mostly white voters. But now that we have shown up in the biggest way we've ever shown up in elections in Georgia, now absentee voting is filled with fraud. Now there's an issue with the drop boxes. Now there's an issue with how we vote in Georgia. Now there's all these things that need to be fixed. But nobody had any of these concerns prior to November or prior to the November election. It's clear what they're trying to do.
So, where are the state's white Democrats, white progressives? Are they out there protesting? Are they at the state capitol? Are they using their voices?
They are. They're trying to. It's also very difficult right now because the Speaker of the House definitely is using COVID as a vehicle to make sure that the public does not really have a in the Capitol and really to make their voices heard. So, I mean, these folks, they do things like move committee meetings around so that it's hard for constituents to come show up and use their voice in committee meetings. They play all kinds of tricks, and they have been for years to make sure that it's really hard for the public.
Are there any plans to do, granted, I know it's COVID, but mass rallies to show support? Of course, we were there. Like I say, all over the place, whether it was Columbus and Albany and Savannah, they're in Atlanta, and other places as well. Are there plans to do demonstrations across the state, a show of force? Because, again, what people don't realize is next year, they are afraid of Stacey Abrams beating Brian Kemp. They are afraid of Pastor Raphael Warnock winning a full 6-year term. And so what I am saying to folks is, we can't simply just sit back and relax. We have to understand that they're doing this because they see the numbers. And the Republican leader in the House, I think it was in the House, said, if we allow this type of voting, Republicans will lose every election. So they're not trying to make an argument on policy. They're trying to say, how can we strip away make it impossible or difficult for folks to vote because we can win by the margins.
There are rallies. There was a rally yesterday and there was a rally earlier today, which is what led to the incident with Representative Cannon. So people are showing up to try to make their voices heard.
Over 20 statewide organizations wrote a letter when the bill was quickly changed overnight to say, stop this. Seriously, our entire state is watching you, and we will continue to mobilize our members about this issue because this is one that should be based on evidence, not on conspiracy theories that have been peddled again through legislative committee hearing and now a legislative draft. It is so critically important that everyone continue to mobilize. Right now, the state capitol in Georgia is under construction. It is COVID-19. It is a pandemic. We want people to still engage with us on the live stream committee hearings, but we know that there is a level of separation that is happening right now, which is why sometimes we go on TikTok and we tell people about the voter registration repeals because we want people to actually see what is happening. It's going to take a really big strategy to stop this bill before March 8th, but we actually believe that we can do it. Today we saw a bill got pulled from the floor because there were members who were down protesting, so they didn't have enough to vote. So it'll be interesting to see how these 2 weeks go. And if these Republicans can understand, you are attacking your own voters as well. 5 million of the 7 million registered by the DMV. Why take it away now?
We need Democrats to get tough, kill the filibuster, and pass some federal piece of legislation that protects states like Georgia and other states, because we're not the only ones who need this help and support. We need Democrats to get tough, kill the filibuster, use the power that we gave you when we all came out to vote, and pass some type of bill that will protect us to make sure that we can have free and fair elections.
Representative Cannon, Representative Shannon, we certainly appreciate it. Y'all keep swinging hard, and we'll keep covering this as well. Keep us abreast of what's going on, and whatever help we can provide, we certainly will be there for you.
Thank you, Roland, and we love your show. You are the truth.
Woo, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much.